Yeah, kia ora katoa. I'm Shaun Bowler. I am a psychologist and a yoga teacher and a father and a husband and a friend and all those sorts of things. And I'm here in Tamaki Makaurau today, and I'd be interested in where other people are today because I can't see you. But if you'd like to just say where you are and throw that up in the chat, we'll be able to get a sense of, where other people are. We have about half an hour, or we do have half an hour, so we're going to finish at 12:30 exactly. So, we've got someone from Hokitika. Hi, Joanne. And we're going to finish on the dot of 12:30. And so I'd like us to leave about 10 minutes for general discussion and questions. Someone from Aotearoa Christchurch. Someone from the north, from Kaipara. Kia ora. So really stretched out far across the motu. That's beautiful. And so the first part of it will be me talking, but I encourage you to ask your questions, put hands up as you go, because we are quite a small group. And so we've got the chance to talk as we go. But as I say, when we get to about 12:20, we'll have just throw it open in any general questions. So what's our topic for today? What's our kaupapa? Our kaupapa for today is getting physical. And I subtitled this, Free the Body and the Mind Will Follow. Free the Body and the Mind Will Follow. Does anyone remember that that campaign? It was an advertising campaign. It was for Les Mills gyms, and they had these big billboards that said, "Free the body and the mind will follow." I know the line in the song. Yes, somebody knows it. Hi, Verity, there in Aotearoa as well. What do you think people meant by that? Let me just throw this open to a question. What do you think they meant when they sang that song, or they used that advertising campaign? Free the body and the mind will follow. I'm going to, I guess it's a bit hard for us to use speakers and those sorts of things, so I'm just going to answer the question rhetorically myself. And it's about this connection between the body and the mind. And we tend to think of them as two separate things, but in reality, they're very, very closely related. Our state of mind, our mental health, well-being, and mental health is very closely connected to our physical well-being. In fact, here's a question for you: would we have a body if we didn't have would we have a mind if we didn't have a body? Can we exist separate from our bodies? Well, there are a range of opinions on that, but I'm pretty much firmly of the opinion that the body is really the only home that we have. Notwithstanding any thoughts you might have or beliefs you might have about an afterlife, while we're certainly on this earth, the body that we have is the only home that we have. And so our mind is fully dependent on our body. Our mental health is fully dependent on our body and our physical well-being. And it's amazing how much health issues impact on our general well-being. So what we can do is we can use this two ways. One, we can say, well, gosh, I don't feel well because I'm not in good physical health. Or we can actually say we can actually improve our feelings of well-being by looking after our body. And how do we do that? Well, to me, it's pretty simple. We do this by focusing on several key things that we all need. And they include things like sleep, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Food, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Movement, we'll talk a little bit about that. And water, of course, we'll talk a little bit about that. And these things change over the lifetime as well. So then our requirements for food, for movement, for sleep change as we mature. So it's not the same when we're babies as it is when we're an old person. or somebody in our 20s or 30s, and anybody who has had young babies will know all about their sleeping habits and the impact that that can have on ours. So you can see that this whole embodiment thing, this whole having a body, is really vital to our well-being, and getting physical, being comfortable with our physicality can be incredibly helpful to living a life of well-being. Let's have a look at movement first, because that's quite a biggie. If I said to you that I had a pill that could lower blood pressure, it could lower your cholesterol, it could calm your mind, it could increase your concentration, it could improve your libido, your sexual appetite and enjoyment. If I said to you I had a single pill that could do all of those things, it could make you stronger as well. It would help you sleep better. All of those things, sleep better, lower your blood pressure, improve your cholesterol, be calmer, etc., etc., etc. You'd think, wow, where do I buy that? You know, what could I take? What could I put in my mouth to actually make that happen? Well, the thing is, it's not something that you take. It's not a pill. It actually already exists, and it's absolutely free. Absolutely free. And it's called movement. Exercise. And it's as simple as that, because movement does all these things for us. Our bodies were designed to move. Our bodies and our minds were designed to be in physical movement. We've evolved for movement. We thrive on movement. We're designed for movement. And it's only when we stop moving that we start running into problems. Okay, now not everybody can move at the same pace. So I'm not talking about racing, I'm talking about movement. And when I talk about movement, what exactly am I talking about? Am I talking about exercise? Am I talking about sport? Am I talking about other things? What are the different forms of sport and exercise? Well, on the one hand, we tend to see, because there's a lot of money in this, we tend to see kind of the very professional end of movement in elite sport. It's on the TV, it makes big bucks, advertisers like to spend on it. There are big sponsors, we're talking about billions of dollars washing around the world invested in elite sport. And that's, you know, it's in the news, it's on the television, it's on our phones, etc., etc. And so that focus of where the money goes, and therefore where the media attention goes, kind of confuses us a bit, because we tend to associate movement with elite sport, with the All Blacks, with Manchester United or Barcelona or Real Madrid, or the NFL or the AFL, or you know, pro golfers and you know, elite motorsport, whatever. And that kind of distorts our view. And so that starts to make us feel, if we can't be like that, then we can't really do sport. And if we're not doing sport, then, you know, that's up. We're not exercising. And so there's actually this inbuilt kind of barrier when we sort of look at the TV and we think we compare ourselves to what's going on in elite sport. And that's so unrealistic, because it has billions of dollars pumped into it. And those people are paid to do that all day, every day. And the life of a professional rugby player, an All Black, is very unlike your life or my life. We don't have doctors on tap and physios on tap and surgeons on tap and you know, 4 or 5 hours to work out and train in the gym every day, because we've got other things going on. We don't have those resources. And, perhaps if we did have those resources, we could be as elite as those people. But we don't have that. So we have to think about exercise in different terms. And so exercise can be sport at a lower level. It can be social sport. It can be social netball. It can be, social indoor cricket. It could be anything like that. It might be table tennis. But it also doesn't even have to be sport at all. So exercise could be what we call activities of daily living. Activities of daily living. Throw it up in the chat. What's an activity of daily living that has exercise value? So something you do every day or have to do once a week or twice a week or once a day. Putting the washing on the line. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to walk to the clothesline. You've got to carry the basket. You've got to bend the knees and pick up the basket of washing. Vacuuming. Yep. Moving around the house, doing the vacuuming. Absolutely. So these are chores, but they're activities of daily living. Changing the sheets. Actually, that's quite a good one because that involves lifting up the mattress and tucking in the corners and folding the sheets, and you've got the arms outstretched like this. Think of all the movements that you're doing when you're doing those things. Folding sheets, checking the veggie garden. Veggie gardens are fantastic. Yeah, I love it, Joanne. Thank you. You've got so much different movement. You can get down on your hands and knees. You can dig. You can prune. You can mowing the lawns. Mowing the lawns is a good one. In fact, I personally use that one if I'm feeling like I need to relax and I haven't had any exercise, had a chance to go to the gym or whatever, mowing the lawn, it's a good hour workout for me. Got a reasonably large lawn, and then I've got to move it around the front of the house and so on. So, I mean, yeah, you guys get this. There's these things that we can do every day. What about going to and tidying up after the children? Yeah, I like it. What about going to work? Does anyone do active transport, like, cycling or walking to work? Yeah? Got any cyclists or walkers to work? It's not always possible for everybody. Having said that, if you have to take your car to work because you live quite some way away, or you have to take the bus to work, what's an option for actually putting a little bit of active transport, cycling or walking, into that commute? Yep, you got it. Parking further away. Thank you, Marissa. I was hoping somebody would say that. And so this is actually really good, particularly if you've got parking problems at work. And I know a lot of people, particularly in Auckland and Christchurch, Te Christchurch, do have trouble finding parking. Is you can park a few blocks away and you get 10 minutes if you want, 5 minutes, whatever works for you. And so you're doing yourself a favor. You do that parking 10 minutes away twice a day. You've got the walk there and the walk back. That's 20 minutes walking without even trying. So there's that as well. Okay, so let's leave that for a moment. All I'm trying to say is that it's not just about sport. It's about what we can do in our everyday lives as well. And I love that changing the sheets, etc., and even folding sheets, putting washing on the line. Think of all the shoulder movement with that. Let's have a quick look at sleep. How much sleep do we need? I'm not asking how much sleep you're getting. I'm asking how much we really need. Answer is everybody needs between 7 and 8 hours. Yep, you've got it. Yep. Thank you, Rebecca, Marissa. You guys got it. It is a formula. It's basically the way our bodies are designed. I know that young parents don't, or parents of young children don't always get that. That can be quite draining, but it's the sort of thing that we should aim for, right? And it does decrease later in life. I did mention that there are changes. So older people tend not to get, such good quality uninterrupted sleep. Babies have interesting sleep-wake cycles, but for most adults, we need that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And so the way to do that is we have sleep hygiene. And what happens is when we've got sleep hygiene, we have regular going to bed and waking up times. That's the best way to have you know, to make the, you know, have good sleep hygiene. Keeping devices out of the bedroom, those sorts of things. What's happening to our bodies when we're sleeping? They're restoring themselves. So the muscles are rebuilding. We're clearing out toxins and proteins from the brain. There's stuff going on there that we're only just beginning to understand now, and so on. So sleep is very, very important, and having regular bedtime, the time that you go to bed, without technology, without devices in the room, without things that you can scroll in the bed, very, very useful. Okay, is achieving that. So getting physical also involves looking after the fuel that we put into our bodies. Diets, a word on diets. There are a lot of popular diets out there. There has been a lot of push, for example, on fasting, intermittent fasting, and so on. But it's really quite simple. By and large, and this is a bit controversial, diets don't tend to work. And we tend to make things quite complicated with dieting. It can create anxiety because then we've got to follow them. We've got to make sure we've got the right foods. It's difficult when we go away. What happens when we go to someone's house, etc., etc., etc. And most dieting is a response to the simple equation: calories in equals calories out. And so often the problem is that we use dieting as a way of coping for the fact that we're not getting enough exercise. So you don't actually have to diet if weight loss is the goal that you have, and it's not always an issue for people, but if weight loss is a reason for dieting, then the other side of the coin is, rather than restrict the food, you can increase the exercise. So that opens up a whole lot more opportunities, and it removes a lot of pressure off the need to diet. People come up with all sorts of diets. There's paleo diets, there's intermittent fasting, there was the Atkins diet, you know, there's all sorts of stuff there. And some people have to diet for certain reasons. You know, there are new restrictions around gluten intolerance and so on and so forth, lactose intolerance, and I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking more about dieting from a weight management perspective. And a general nutritional perspective. People say, you know, I went to see this wonderful fellow by the name of Michael Pollan. I don't know if anyone's heard of him. He wrote a book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, and in it he talked about what sustainable food and sustainable diets is like. And it was a bestseller, and I had the good luck to actually see him speak once, and he said, you know, I've given all this advice about what a sustainable planetary diet is. This was from a sustainability perspective, but also from an individual perspective. He said, people come up to me now that I've written this book, and they ask, you've made this really hard for me. I'm really confused. Now what do I eat? And he said, it came down to 7 words that I now give everybody as a piece of advice when they ask me what I should eat. And these 7 words are, ready for it? Eat food, not too much, mainly vegetables. I'm going to say those 7 words again. Eat food, not too much, mainly vegetables. Okay, so what that means is that you should eat food, and that means not eating anything your grandmother wouldn't recognize. That means nutritious whole foods, mainly that you've cooked yourself. Avoid things that come out of packets or that have a shelf life longer than a week. Not too much, and by that I mean eat with other people without watching television, slowly, chewing, making sure that you stop before you're overly full. And the point of eating with other people and eating slowly is so that you know when you get full. If you're eating mindlessly in front of the television, or you're by yourself and you're scrolling through your phone while you're eating, you've got a tendency not to notice when you're full, so you keep going. So eat food, not too much. And then the last part of it is mainly vegetables. And so this doesn't mean don't eat meat. although you might choose to be vegetarian for some reason. There's nothing wrong with that. But even if you do eat meat, you should mainly be eating vegetables. So you should have a little bit of meat and lots of vegetables of different colors. Okay, so that's the dieting, that's the sleep hygiene. We've talked about the movement. I want to talk a little bit about the water. I mentioned water. Hydration, very, very important. There are arguments about how much water you should drink. I guess the rule of thumb is when you're thirsty, don't use a soft drink. Don't go and buy anything when you're thirsty. You should never buy anything to quench your thirst. You should drink water out of the tap. And that is assuming that you have availability, you have potable water coming out of your tap. If you don't have potable water coming out of your tap, like you live in a rural area with poor water quality or something like that, then that's a slightly different issue. Maybe you need a water filter or something like that. But for most of us, we can go to the tap and we can just drink water. So hydration, generally want to be drinking a couple of liters a day. And that means making sure you've got a glass around for most of the time. I've got one right here. And that will help keep everything functioning well, keep the skin hydrated, the kidneys functioning well, and your bowels moving properly, because that is one of the biggest sources of constipation, is not having enough liquids and water. Okay, well, we've reached the end of the time. This has been very much a cook's tour, a very quick canvas of this topic of physical embodiment and exercise, movement, sleep, diets, and so on. So I hope there's been something in here helpful for you, and I thank you for coming and really appreciate you, whether you're in Dargaville, Hokitika. We've certainly got a bias to the West Coast. We've got a couple of East Coast representatives in Ngātahi, Christchurch there, and I'm sort of slap bang in the middle here. Here we go. Thank you for coming, everybody.